Hi folks, Matt here. Just a quick update and then a quick word of encouragement for you. This Sunday we are going to be gathering as we usually do on Sundays online again. We are, however, aiming for the 29th to be gathering together in person. And we can do that across multiple services. It's quite a complex process, and you may have thought, why don't they just do this or why don't they just do that? Let me assure you, there's no just anything with lots of teams and different services, and it does take quite a bit. But I'm so proud of our team and their adaptability and how quickly we have been able to respond to restrictions that are always changing, slightly different each time. So there are plenty of challenges there. So do be patient with us, and I really encourage you also to be adaptable, and certainly also please do lean in to these opportunities to gather in person when we open these opportunities up. Things are not going to be ideal. Let's not approach this as consumers and I'm only going to go when it meets my expectations. No, I think it's really important that we take the opportunities to gather when we can. Of course, there have already been opportunities to gather. We on Monday night had a wonderful worship time at the Pursue Night, and life groups are gathering, and the Bloom Women's Ministry is gathering, and so there are lots of great opportunities to do that. So please lean into these opportunities and gather for the sake of gathering. I think that's really important. Just a word of encouragement for you then. I know that as I have spoken to people and just monitoring a little bit where people are at, I know there's a lot of, there's sort of mixed emotions as we go through these seasons. A lot of people are really fatigued by restrictions. This inevitably leads to maybe anger, frustration about how things are, and everyone has their own opinions on how things work. Again, I think it's really important that we show some humility here and recognize what we don't know and what we don't see, and have the humility to recognize that we may not know better. This is a very complex situation. But I think above all, it's important that we stay focused in this time. I believe that more than ever around this time, this is a time when we can be divided by our opinions, when we should be united around what we know is truth together. And frustration and anger can lead to these sorts of things, and people can be thinking, why can't everyone just see things the way that I want it? People just, and so forth, and all of these different emotions are flying around, and that's understandable. That comes from a place of frustration and lockdown fatigue and all these other things, and I get that. Let me share some insights with you from Psalm 46, which I believe is very poignant through this time. Psalm 46 depicts a situation in which everything that we hold secure is falling around beneath us. So it depicts a situation that is far more dire than anything we're facing at the moment. But I think it's good, and it's a good polarized picture for us to reflect on. The Psalm says at the start, God is our refuge and our strength, an ever-present help in trouble. Therefore we will not fear, though the earth give way and the mountains fall into the heart of the sea, though its waters roar and foam, and the mountains quake with their surging. Now, in the ancient world, mountains represented firmness and immovability. They were the very image of immovability. It's why, of course, Jesus, when he talks about faith, he says, if you have faith the size of a mustard seed, you can say to that mountain, cast yourself into the sea and it will be done. Because in the ancient world, a mountain was the very symbol of immovability. And so this is depicting a situation in which everything that we take as being secure and immovable begins to crumble. And of course, it talks about being thrown into the sea. And the sea, of course, in the ancient world is the very symbol of chaos. The waters heaving and going to and fro. This is a symbol of chaos. And so this is a sort of catastrophic situation that is depicted here, but it's saying even though these things happen, even though the mountains fall into the sea, yet we will not fear. And here is why it says in verse 4, because there is a river whose streams make glad the city of God, the holy place where the Most High dwells. God is within her. She will not fall. God will help her at the break of day. This is talking about God's purpose, God's kingdom, in the midst of all of the chaos that is going on in the world. And let's just be reminded that according to the Bible, things aren't necessarily going to get better. As I know our culture has this sort of undying belief in progress. But from a biblical point of view, well, progressing probably in the wrong direction. And certainly if you read the book of Revelation, it doesn't look like things are going to get any better. However, and here's my main point, we don't need to be afraid of that. We don't need to, bunker down and put up the defenses and be fearful, because the purpose of God is immovable here. The psalm goes on to say, nations are in uproar, kingdoms fall. But he lifts his voice, God lifts his voice, and the earth melts. The Lord, it says, the Lord Almighty is with us. The God of Jacob is our fortress. Come and see, it says. Come and see what the Lord has done, the desolations he has brought on the earth. In fact, this is saying that all of this crumbling and falling and the collapse of the world, this is part of God's work. God is bringing things to completion. Of course, we're not at that stage yet, but we know that the Bible predicts a future in which the world system does finally fall. Verse 9, he makes wars to cease to the ends of the earth. He breaks the bow and shatters the spear and burns the shields with fire. He says, be still and know that I am God. I will be exalted among the nations. I will be exalted in all the earth. Verse 11, the Lord Almighty is with us. The God of Jacob is our fortress. Here's our focal point. Be still and know that God is God. God isn't frustrated. God doesn't get frustrated, because the plan of God can't be frustrated. Now, as Christians, we experience grief, we experience hardship, but we need never be frustrated. Frustration tends to be a symptom that you're serving the wrong plan and that you're fighting the wrong battles if you feel frustrated, because God's plan can never be thwarted. So take peace in that and be still and know that he is God. Get into the river that makes glad the city of God. In the midst of the chaos, there is peace. That's what Psalm 46 encourages us with. So be blessed by that, folks. Cheers.